trouble himself to fully densify in this three-dimensional, space-time, came over, put the hand over the knee, didn't touch it, but just above it. And I kept thinking, all right, well, maybe this isn't real, but it's a nice hallucination. I didn't know at that point, because I was very early on, and I wasn't used to dealing with them in non-physical form. Came over, and the first thing I felt was heat. Started to radiate heat toward it. And immediately it did something strange to my inner perceptions, where I got what I call microvision, where suddenly it shifted my consciousness into microvision, which is a normal ability of psychic seeing we all have. But most of us don't know we have it until we trip over it and think it's really strange. It's like being able to be in a microscope, where you can go into the atomic structure and that kind of thing. So it shifted my consciousness so I could watch what was taking place. And what I saw were different colors moving very quickly, little bursts of light, and they all had sound. And it was like a symphony, like a digital symphony going on in there. I was fully aware that this is happening in my knee. Oh, neat. There was no pain. And then at one point I passed out. I just lost track of myself. I had no idea where I went. And he was gone when I woke up. When I got up, I noticed from here, it could go down here. Oh, neat. That's better. A little easier to hop. Came back again the next day. I was supposed to go for surgery, but that's when I said, maybe I won't have to go. Right before I was supposed to go, it happened again. And this time it just came in as a pillar. Didn't even bother, fully manifesting in form. It just takes more energy to come back down. And moved the pillar of light over toward me. And again, I could see, when I closed my eyes, I could see the hand coming out of the pillar. And from the frequency, and again, I heard the digital sounds. And I heard a pop, which was strange. I didn't have the day before. And the pop seemed to do something, where I felt a surge of energy run down through my leg. And I got telepathically in my head, you can get up now. We'll cancel the appointment. And I did. And I got up off the couch and I did a step on it. I got down. I didn't go down. There was no pain. It just, this is neat. Look at this. I was amazed at how fast it worked. They've done the same thing for me a couple of times when my back had gone out. Because we were doing very rapid Kundalini activations. When you activate DNA, you're activating Kundalini. Kundalini is an energy that runs up from the base of the spine up to the pineal gland. And if it starts to run faster than your molecular structure is ready to deal with, you can get your back knocked out of whack very easily at the lower vertebrae. And I was having a lot of problem with it. There was one where I was walking for about 3 weeks, sideways upstairs, hunched over this way, because I couldn't straighten my back up. They came in again, and it was simply the touch. There was one thing he always seemed to come. His name was Jonathan. He was a tall, blonde person with a white robe, and he's the one with the big hand. And he put the hand over the back. And he did that the one time. I had been in agony. I only went out in the lower back. It went out between, like over back where the heart chakra is. It had gone out in both places. I can't move. And I was taking care of my children that point. I had 3 children to take care of, and I was a single parent. I was divorced. So it was very difficult to take care of 3 children. You can't move out of bed. Came in and just touched the lower spine. And scared me to death because I heard a few little tones, saw a flash of light, and heard the loudest, most horrible snap crunch that I've ever heard. Now when you get chiropractic adjustments, and they finally hit the throw on machine, you're like, oh, that hurt, but I'm back into alignment. There was no pain, but the sound of the crunch was horrible. My whole back, as if somebody had whacked it, just literally spasmed, and it bounced off the bed about that high, and it shifted both back in, and I was perfectly fine. So I've had experiences. You've asked about what is Kathara healing like for me, or my experiences with it. These were just small parts of it, and this is when I didn't know about Kathara healing directly. I had memory of using light sound technologies in other, space-time vectors or incarnations, but in this lifetime, I had not directly learned the program yet. It was before any of the Kathara healing was given. They were even running part of it that didn't even use the D12 current, because you couldn't run D12 current here on the planet when that was happening. That's only been since January 1st, 2000, that you could actually use Kathara until its full capacity, because the D12 frequency came back into the grids, because certain parts of the planetary Kathara grid was restored that hasn't been restored in 200,000 years. So even on smaller applications that didn't allow full running of the D12 frequency, it had amazing results for me. I never had bones protruding out of skin and watched it heal itself before my eyes. But it can do of good things from the people we introduced it in New York City. And some of the people have been working with it out there. And I've heard a lot of really good things. There was one lady, it was the first time we were in the workshop, and the group had moved chairs around, and she got whacked in the head with somebody lifting a chair. She got whacked really hard. And we had just gone through the process. This is how to do, remember?
No, I was watching your videos, and I hear this pop and this whack off camera, and you go, "Are you okay?"
Yeah,
it's supposed to be what you're referring to.
I saw it happen. I saw the person that he was kind of right in front of her was moving back, moving the chair back, and she got whacked. But she kind of looked a little bit spacey, and then just sat down and all right. She's all right. She came up to me later. She said, "That was the strangest experience I had, but you know what? The second teaching works." I said, "Why?" Just when I got whacked, at first of all, I thought I was going to pass out because it was so hard. She said, I felt an ache coming on my head. I could just feel the skin expanding. And I was very numb and my ears were ringing and I was ready to go down. And I remembered that we had activated the current. So I had pulled it up from the earth core, through the feet chakras, up through the body, and pushed it all up into my head and up into where it got in. And she said, it was really strange. Again, it was like everything went still for a little bit. That's what she described to me. Everything went still for a second, like time seemed to stretch, and swelling started to reverse. And it went down. She said, look, there's no bump anymore. She said, honest, there was a bump there. So I didn't see the bump because she looked like she was okay by the time I saw her sit down. But she had said that she had used it to instantly make what was, going to become a nice large bruised bump on her head literally stop doing what it was doing and reverse it back to its normal movement. So I was impressed. That was the first time we'd ever introduced this. It was pretty good. That was like a demonstration that she, I guess, her soul was planning to give us in the past. So there's a lot of good things that you can do with this. The potentials are awesome. What we used to do with this in the ancient times, when we had the DNA cleared so you could really run strong currents, and the earth grids were cleared so you could pull strong currents from the earth grids, you could regenerate limbs. If we could reclaim what we once had as a human race, as far as with our healing goes, it would completely render unnecessary all forms of allopathic medicine. They would be archaic forms of the past. Yes?
Are people it's necessary to have to clean the system so that the others maybe have the chain reaction they don't need to consciously know? Is it enough that a core amount of people clean the DNA to activate the DNA system so that the rest of the humanity can do it like that?
I know what you're saying. You're saying critical mass. Okay, what you're talking about was what we call critical mass. If enough people do clear the DNA. Well, it's clear the rest of them, even though they're doing nothing to help themselves. Right? To a degree, yes. If critical mass can be built fast enough to override the amount of distortion that's being carried in the mass field right now, in the mass species field, you can hit critical mass. And this is why these programs are geared toward indigo children that have the capacity to have 24 to 48 strands of DNA, not just 12. If you get indigos activated faster, they can pull 20 times the amount of frequency as even a 12-strand activated human can. They can build the critical mass in the morphogenetic field, or the template for the species, which will help progressively. Even people that don't want to hear about Cathara healing at all, it will help them reverse mutate their templates. That's one of the reasons that the indigo children, people with the higher strand contents, are being the ones who are being contacted first and they're being healed first because they have the power to create mass healing. It would take a handful of them to clear thousands and thousands of the others. And that's enormous. So that's a good observation. That yes, if we heal ourselves and we work to bring that healing to other people around us, we can literally heal the planet. That can become very important in the next 10-year period, depending on how the politics go. Because we're in a drama right now with interstellar visitors, with governments who are covering that up. But all sorts of deals going on behind everybody's back that we're going to be the last to know about if it was up to our governments. There are things that could happen here because we have entered the Stargate opening cycle, the stellar activation cycle. That is a natural phenomenon. But when it happens, The planetary grids need to be in good condition, or it can cause problems with the planetary grids. Tectonic cracking can cause problems. We're facing a time period where, if it got really bad, there are two options: stay here and roll, which isn't a good option. That's when, if it got that bad, that's when you go into dying while training, where you teach people how to roll themselves up in a ball and get themselves out of the body as fast as possible when it's time, because you can do that too. But that's not what we're teaching right now, because we're not in that stage. But we're going into a period where it may become necessary for people to be able to temporarily move through time portals in the Earth, for temporary moving out of the line of tectonic cracking, or we would come back once it was done. If it gets that bad, you need a minimum of 4.5 strand activation. All of the fourth, half of the strand. Right now, most people are 3 to 3.5 strand activated. Where most of us are 3 to 3.5 strand activated. We have to get a minimum of 4.5 strand activation to be able to not spontaneously combust when we pass through the inner portal. It's all about frequency. If you go through an energy field that has more frequency coming through it than what your DNA can hold right now, than what your atomic structure can hold, you will blow up, because you will go through cellular fission and fusion very rapidly. In the traditional sense, what happens when you bring particle and antiparticle together, you poof, unless it's done within the natural structure of sequencing, as a sequence where we do how we transmute, how we turn ourselves into light and come back again. We do go through atomic fission and fusion, but not in the way that's identified right now by science. That's the traditional way, where we kind of like explode and fragment, and you have a burst of energy. That is the way that happens when your DNA is not activated properly in the sequence. But when it is, you have all these other subharmonics of frequency coming in from the higher strand templates that allows you to enter pre-matter D12 liquid light and come up to the next octave out, where you still maintain your form integrity. If you don't have 4.5 strand activation and you attempt to go to this place, like in Earth, it has a different angular rotation of particle spin in their matter base than we have here. If you are still at third strand activation, you don't yet have the ability to loosen those seals. I'm going to go back for a second. Talk about the seals again, the crystal seals. On page 71. On page 71, those crystal seals that I was talking about. As long as they're phase locked, or they can't open, you're stuck in your time vector, which means you can't bring in enough frequency in your body that will allow you to make a shift to a different matter-based system. When we activate into the fourth strand and higher, we begin to open some of the lower seals, where you can move through an energy field, such as a portal, that has fourth dimensional frequency. And your body can process it by releasing a seal naturally, allowing a shift in the angular rotation of particle spin of your matter base. This is how you would be able to go through the portal. Now, what we're doing right now on the planet, we're not on evac stage or anything like that. There's still a lot of healing that can be done here before it gets that desperate. So, we can create healing on a planetary level simply by communicating with ourselves. If we use the Kathara system to clear our own systems, that healing will progressively build up a new imprint in the species template, because we're all connected to the species template. If we build up enough of the healed pattern by running enough of the D12 divine blueprint, it will eventually hit critical mass, where it will begin. It won't immediately turn everybody into 12-strand beings, but what it will do is create enough frequency to stimulate a 4.5 strand activation, which means that if there was going to be a problem here on the planet, they could literally put up a field that would help stabilize the planet. It wasn't going to wipe out the people. Because right now, if the different guardian races try to put up a full Mahara seal on the planetary level, D12 seal, it would make the forces that are messing with the planet right now, it would make them go away. They would be able to come in the vortices because they don't have 12-strand DNA. But it would also fry everybody on the planet. Because right now we can't activate all of it yet. What we're doing, working with Kathara healing, is getting ourselves where our own DNA is up to where we could go through a portal if we had to, where we could sustain a personal Mahara seal without frying ourselves. So we can make protection for ourselves. And the more we do it, we're making it able, the planet able, and the other people on the planet able to do it. Now, when it comes to these seals, These little seals here. We have seed crystal seals that are in between. They're kind of like, they're not quite. They control these things. They control the crossover point in the chakras. But some of them are a little bit lower or a little bit higher, and some are right in the area. Now, what I'm showing in here, the big ones you see, there were dots, but they didn't show up really well in the diagram, the reprinted diagram. There would be a dot at each crossover point. That would be the seed seal controlling that chakra. Then these larger dots, they're called star crystal seals. The star crystal seals are the main regulators of angular rotation of particle spin, and they control the seed crystal seals. So if you want to be able to control the seed crystal seals to allow your body to open to new frequencies so you can move through a portal or create healing with running Maharada through that area, you need to use the star crystal seals. They're the controlling seals. The star crystal seals are located usually close to the area where they are. This is an important diagram when you start working with Kundalini, because these are the things you need to move through and activate to get your Kundalini energy to flow. We'll talk about Kundalini and the life force currents. There are several of them. There's Kundalini, there's the Maharada, there's the Kiroshe, and there's the Kundalini, and going from the lowest frequency up to the highest. That's the Kundalini energy, so I'm talking about the universal life force currents. These seals control how much of it can go into the body. They control the cranial sacral seals from the cranial gland and at the base of the spine. So when we need just to be aware that we have them. Every certain exercises, if you don't think it's in the introductory level, it's down to the mention of the crystal seals, so you don't have to memorize them all. But it's good to have the charts handy, because you will find techniques that say, run energy, just call the frequency down to here. In fact, when we are activating the triadic phase currents, we'll begin to activate one called Dradic Phase 1. We'll talk more about what that is later. But we're going to be opening crystal seals here and the seed seal to allow our bodies to begin pulling what is more than a three-dimensional current. All of the people that are working with healing energies right now, if they are not using the Kathara system, and not just because it's a system that I represent, but because it is the system that is the template behind all the other healing systems. It shows you dimensional structure, it shows you what pieces of. What they're doing is they're not opening these things. They're not opening any of the seals to draw healing, because you have to know how to do that consciously. Nobody can do it for you. You can't have like an archangel trigger it for you and now you can open that current. It has to come from in your own directive. The body has its own kind of built-in safety with that. Where if you can't activate it, you're not ready to have it activated, that kind of thing. If you don't open the seals here around the heart chakra, you will only be able to run current from dimension 1, dimension 2, dimension 3, which means you'll only be able to affect healing fully in the first 3 chakras and in the subharmonics, or the sub-frequency bands of all the other chakras. Sub-frequency bands only, 1, 2, and 3. If you go back to the Kathara grid and imagine that 12-tree grid, with a 3-dimensional current, the only thing you could reset would be the first 3 centers and subharmonic or sub-frequency band 1, 2, and 3 in each of the higher centers, which means you can't completely reprogram and restore blueprint health to the whole template. You can't learn how to immediately run the highest current. You blow up. All right? Your body has to progressively learn to handle and synthesize the frequencies. So there's a procedure that we're going to learn in here that teaches how to open those currents. Right? Oh, okay. Can I ask you a question while you're here? Is there a scheduled lunchtime?
Yes, there is. Any time between 12:30 and 2. So probably if we then come back and work till 1 o'clock or so.
Okay. Dinner is what time?
Sorry?
Dinner is what time?
Well, 12:30. No, dinner is the same again.
Okay. So we got 5 minutes of coffee break and we told. When we go on break, try to think for a little bit what it means that you have these seals in the body. Try to see if you can locate them. Because you can. If you realize that they're, you can sit there and close your eyes. Slow your breathing by about half. If you want to get in touch with your body, slow your breathing by half. This will take you into a frequency of mental focus that allows you to communicate more directly with your body. If you do it a lot, it will take you into alpha brainwave pattern that will allow you more direct access to your body consciousness. So try to consciously slow your breathing in half, whatever you feel yourself breathing as. Slow it. And see, it feels a little weird when you first do it. Once you slow the breathing down, if you're finding yourself thinking thoughts, slow your thoughts down, as if they were talking really slow to you. You need to learn to change the speed of your mental body. Because you're changing the flash line. We talked about flash line sequences yesterday. About how fast the scalar waves turn on and off, how fast they circulate energy. You get more energy on, more energy in, when you move more slowly. Just like you get more light in the lens of a camera when it stays open longer. Where it shuts down, opening and closing really fast. So if you're slow with yourself and breathing, slow your body moves. Then, take your attention and put it in your head as a little ball of light. You can choose any color you want for this one. Pay attention to what color you decide to choose. It'll probably something right. But I'll talk to you about it. Send that little ball of energy down into the center of the heart chakra where it meets the main vertical current, where you're putting your little ball of your awareness right down in here right now. Try to feel yourself as a ball of energy first. If you can't do that, try to feel yourself as a very tiny person in a ball of energy. Start there. And once you're in there, in your position, right in the center of that heart chakra, there will be two very distinct tones that can be heard once you get yourself into the slow space. One will be from each of those crystal seals, the star crystal seals above and below. You can start finding the reality of these parts of your body by sound. If you can't do it right away, that's okay. Because the more you play with this, the more your brain gets used to processing information this way. We've been taught to look outside for a long time. This is looking inside and replaying the ancient past. Just try to listen to them if you can hear them. If you can't hear them, you might be more visually oriented. See if you get an image out of them or a sensation of vibration. Because when you put your consciousness in the center of the heart chakra, and you really can get it centered in there, you can actually feel a buzziness. It has a sound, and it has a color frequency with it. That goes with those crystal seals. It's like you're sandwiched in between them. You can feel one below you and one above you. You can start to experience the reality of these parts of your body, which allows you to interact with them more deeply. You'll be able to tell if you released a seal or not. If you know what it was like before it was released, you can feel a change in it if it released. So we don't teach this part. It's not in the manual that you have to do this exercise. But I wanted you to get a feel for the fact that these two things, that we're going to be working with this one, to bring in what's called the radiant phase 1 current, which means all of a sudden you're not just limited to dimension 1, 2, and 3 current of density 1. It means you can cross through that barrier that's between density 1 and density 2. You can start to pull the soul currents, which are dimension 4, 5, and 6 currents. The only way to release seals manually is to run the set frequencies of the deep 12 pale silver Maharaj current. That's the only thing that will allow these seals to release unless you hit a level of evolution where that's naturally running through the planetary grids and through your system. But to manually get control of your inner template, to run any of the currents, you would combine them with pale silver. If you try to run them without the pale silver, they won't open the seals, so you're still limited to the three-dimensional spectrum. So these seals become important, just realizing that they're there. Because when we're working with technique, that is about activating higher frequency currents. These are strong currents. For a fourth-dimensional current running, you can affect not only the Kathara centers and DNA strands and chakras 1, 2, 3, you can do 4. You build the body's ability to hold these high frequency currents, and you can progressively clear each level of your template. So that's what we teach you. With R1, we focus on getting the body used to running the radiant phase 1 current. We'll talk about that this afternoon when we come back, or at some point. I'm not sure if it's after break or after lunch by the time we get there. But it's a current that you can begin to feel when we activate it. There's a technique. And I can run these techniques off the top of my head, but they tend to take on a life of their own when you do them that way. Because I'm trying to teach you something you can go home and look up, what was that? And it's exactly the way it was taught to you. You have it in your book. I will read it to you or have someone read them. I usually have a reader. Michael was going to read for me, but he ended up stuck at the printer shop most of the morning doing whiteouts and all the steps we did. Would you read for us this afternoon? Okay. What helps me a lot is usually by the third day into a workshop, I'm doing the herbal throat sprays and things because I lose my voice and sound like a frog. So when I can get help, people will be willing to read, like it's a technique that all you have to do is read it, it's right there, step by step. So this afternoon, I'll ask Phil if he will help, and we're going to go through the exercises of activating these currents. We start to get a feel. And there's something, before we go to break, I want you to take this with you when you go to break. And might have to stand first. Get an idea, before we worry about feeling what a derated phase one current is, get a feeling for the fact that you have current coming out your palms to begin with. Put your hands together. And if your hands are hot and you feel a little sweaty, you're going to hold right. Blow on and kind of cool them off. That'll disrupt your sensation. Come on together. Real lightly. And very gently. Rub the tips. We're just a little bit touching. Try to get a feeling. You'll be building an energy charge when you do this, because one hand has what's called a base magnetic polarity, one has base electric. So they create a charge of energy. If you start to feel a fuzziness, a little bit between the fingers touch each other and palms, instead of rubbing, start doing this, as if you're squishing energy between your palms like this. And focus the energy on the center of the palms, because that's where the chakras are. If you play with that a little bit, you might be able to feel a fuzziness or a warmth or a tingly feeling in there. This is your life force current coming on your palms. Now notice, if you do that, relax your breath. Keep doing this gently with your palms to keep that feeling of fuzziness. And then gently. Inhale your breath for a second and hold it. And push it down into the palm chakras, right down the arms. And see if you get an effect in the palms. Try it a few times. Sometimes it takes a minute to get the coordination. But you can actually find your palms go, whoop, and they jump when the current comes out. It takes some time to play with this. This is where you begin to make it real for yourself. You realize you have a current here to work with. This current is simply a three-dimensional current that's running right now. Play with it over break. Play with it over lunch. See what you can do with your current. Because we're going to amplify that current into bringing in graded phase one. It will be neat to be able to tell the difference. So if you can identify that. You can also play with this and try to build it into a ball using your breath. Inhale energy up from below your feet. Blow it down the arms, not the palms. Try to feel that fuzziness in each breath. To create an expansion. And it should get where you don't have to move your palms down, but the breath does it. Breathe. You can feel it move through. And then when you do this, you amplify what's in there a little bit. So if you're losing touch with the fuzziness, play with it a little bit more. And you can get this current running strong enough, even on a 3D level, without opening the other currents, where it can feel like you have the bar of iron between your palms, where the electricals and magnetics are plugging into each other. And you can start to feel, usually there'll be a tingle here first. There'll be a tingly feeling. And it'll be stronger than the fuzzy feeling. And then it'll almost feel like where one moves, the other does the opposite, where there's like a bar of energy between them. And you can use the breath to make that bar longer and longer and longer. You're building the current. So if you play with these are just your three-dimensional currents. You will amplify these when you use the others. So I'm going to break so we can do the word this time, right? Yeah, probably this time. Okay, so we're going to pick up. So while we're doing technique, it's really important, before we're going to memorize anything else, just to know where your chakras are, particularly the ones on the main vertical line and the ones up above the head and the ones below the feet. It helps to know where 8 and 9 are. They're a little strange because if you notice chakra 9, the front of it is like up here, and it goes through the pineal and an angle, and the back comes out down here.
That's it.
Yeah. And then you'll also start noticing, as your DNA activations move through, you'll start getting odd effects in those areas. This is why those chakras are being activated. If you're getting strange feelings up in the front of your head, tingling, numbness, sometimes pressure, even sometimes a little bit of pain or a headache there, it has to do with the ninth chakra, which would be the ninth strand, the ninth Kathara center. You're beginning to run D9 frequency stuff harmonics, and the body adjusts to it. If you get, and here's where you really get it, when the ninth strand starts to go, right here at the base of the neck, that little indent, I have had times when we were activating ninth-dimensional frequency where it would swell. It would get like a marshmallow back there, that little hollow where, the neck hooks onto the head, and it would be sore. And usually when that would happen, I feel like my head was in a cloud, or my brain was made of marshmallow, or everything was just slower. You couldn't get your brain to focus as clearly as you wanted and stuff. I also found I was very, very sensitive to humidity when that was happening. So there are physical things that as your DNA activates, and you can activate with or without Kathara, the planetary grids are activating. So you're either going to do it in a controlled way where you can move the energy the way you want it to go, or it's going to hit you like a railroad train. There's a lot of people out there that are going to be getting sick because the DNA is going to be activating. They're going to be running to doctors. They're going to be getting drugs to actually block the processes rather than assist it. There's going to be all sorts of stuff happening as the planetary grids activate. We can't stop the grids from activating at this point. To do so would cause instant bullshit because some of the gates have already opened. The gate opening started in earnest in January of 2000. Gate 4 has already started its opening cycle, Stargate 4, which is located in Giza, Egypt. That has already started opening. Once that starts, you start to bring in frequencies into the planetary grids from density 2. If you try to cut that cycle off without letting the whole natural cycle of Stargate 4, then 5, and 6, without letting it run, it will create bullshit. It will shut down those frequencies, and they will be back here. So we are in a cell activation cycle, and their DNA is going to activate. That means if we don't want to be bothered with understanding our DNA is going to activate, we're going to have some very interesting experiences. People are going to get sick a lot more out there. There's going to be certain almost signature diseases that pop up that might look like plagues, otherwise plagues in different areas, that have to do with people having certain configurations in their DNA in those areas, hitting certain frequencies that their DNA cannot process. Now, the people working with Kathara healing, just in the fact that you're running these frequencies yourselves, you can make a huge difference as to what other people, what the masses, are going to experience. Because the more of the deep frequency you can hold, the more you can transmit it out literally through the astral field, where you will assist these people in having some of the support that will give them a frequency bridge so they can handle what's coming through the grids. The key to understanding how to run your frequency is knowing where your chakras are located. There's a lot of other things that as we progress into more advanced stages of Kathara healing, this is not like a junior baby's healing program. There are some really sophisticated parts to this that I've had glimpses of. They've only given us off the CBD plates. Kathara was the beginning of Kathara 2. But the activations that come with these are profound. You will start to have physical effects where you just go, oh, geez, maybe that is, maybe I don't just have a headache, maybe my pineal seals are starting to activate. You start to think differently about what your body's doing, the symptoms you might have. We start to realize that some of the symptoms you might run off and say is a disease because you've been taught to look at it that way is actually an activation cycle. It will clear itself if you don't put something in the middle of it that's going to interrupt it. Drugs, sometimes they can help. A lot of times they can make it a lot worse. So it's a good time to decide if you have like a dependence on allopathic medicine. Don't give it up completely. Don't stop seeing doctors. Simply say, well, do I really need to take, an outside thing, particularly like the prescription drugs. They're like designer chemicals, and if you saw the templates on these things, because they're designed from the outside in rather than the inside out, they're like a mess of frequency subharmonics all twisted in with each other, totally disharmonic, most of them. They'll affect the body in certain ways, but to bring that disharmonic in the body. So you want to think before, like for once, instead of just to say, oh, we can just go to the doctor, or get drugs to do that. Think about if you have another option in whatever situation you're dealing with. And try to help people around you to do that too. Not to say, oh, don't go to doctors, it's bad. It is not. It can be more helpful to go to yourself and say, okay, body, what do I need right now? If you're having a problem that appears as cancer, for instance, even something like cancer, if you go in and begin to talk with your body and allow a translation of your body consciousness to come through in English, which you can do by intention, you may find out that this has very little to do with anything in your local environment. What the cancer is coming from was something that happened to you at age 4 that never was cleared and has brought enough frequency into itself to create a certain pattern that's tripping that type of manifestation of the body. So the cure for that particular cancer isn't going to get surgery. It's getting rid of the miasm that caused it. It's a whole different way of thinking about how you're going to deal with your body. Instead of handing it over to somebody else, you're going to say, well, before I do that, I'm going to try myself. And trust that I have a Christos level, a D12 avatar level, I have a master within. I'm going to try to find out from my master within, which is really the best way to handle the situation. When we get into using energy to heal ourselves or other people, you do need to know your chakras. So that's the one chart that I was going to say, it's worth memorizing. That one's it. Even the seals, you don't need to worry about too much, just know they're there. Because usually when we give the steps and the technique, we have to go to a seal, we say by the heart chakra, or above and below the heart chakra. So we'll give you a chakra reference. So you don't have to remember where all the seals are. As long as you know where the chakra is, you'll know how to follow the steps without having to go dig out your book. Remember, where was that? You have to follow the exercises. Yes, sir?
Would you clarify chakra 8 and seal 6 as far as the drawing goes? It's a little ambiguous.
Okay, MC8. This one runs up, just like 9 runs down through the head. 8 appears right here over the thyroid area, and the thymus area. Runs up and hits the thymus, the thyroid, and runs up through the pineal gland and out the back of the head behind the chakra. So you may get a lot of like activation stuff happening back here, or you may get things happening here that would affect the voice and the breathing when those things are activating.
How does the indigo star, seal 6?
Okay, where am I? I don't know if I still remember. This one begins to activate when this will actually start to activate first when you start activating chakra 6. Okay? See, they're not always directly connected. This one will start to activate when that chakra activates. That will kick in the activation of 8. These are in close proximity to each other. So there's some relationships between them that are complex. We just try to show you where things are located so you can know where your direct frequency. Some of the things, if you read the Kathara manual, some of the things, when they get into complexes of what controls like brain function and this and that, it's very complex. Yes.
And also, chakra 7 and 1, do they have polarized opposites like chakra 2, 3, 4, 5?
They are actually one chakra. They are each other's. Okay, so chakra 1 down here, if this was turned, if your body was turned this way, it would be just like this. Okay, 1 would represent the front and the back, and these are the vertical ones. So 1 and 7 actually go together, where after all of these, see what happens when your body goes through transmutation, all your strands activate, and you get back the ability to ascend or to demanifest when you want to. All of these little cones would move toward each other and come together to form what's called Merkabas, where they would form like energy flame, an energy spiral that opens in the center that would allow a progressively larger pillar of light to come through the body. The skinny current in the middle, as each set of chakras move toward each other and combine, create a space in the middle that is an opening for the currents to expand and move through. You would end up with a body encased in light, where it turns into light. Then these would be the last 2 that would go as far as the embodied ones. Then you have the other chakras. This one's very important. The MC12 down below the feet, 6 inches below the feet. That one is extremely important because unless that's open, you can't run monochromatic current. Because monochromatic current, you're pulling out of the planetary grids. You can't use the planetary battlefield interface system to bring frequency from planetary Kathara into your internal Kathara unless you open that chakra. So the Maharic Seal technique itself runs the current down to open this chakra. There are a lot of people, particularly the young ones that are coming in, the indigo children that are coming in, a lot of them flip out. Okay? Now these are ascended master people, most of them. But they're in little bodies with frequencies all locked up. And they have about 3 times as much frequency to deal with as an average person because they have the 6th strand activated at birth, even if the 4 and 5 strands aren't. If you have children that are acting weird, okay, there's chances are that this is one of their problems. Their DNA is too high frequency for the time frame they're in. If this is open on them, it will allow that energy to come out of their fields where they have more of a chance of stabilizing. So one of the things you can do to help yourself if you're an indigo, to help other people who seem to be really, there are many people that are just like really tense and really jumpy and, you know, they make you nervous just by being next to them because they're always like tied up in a ball. It's very possible that they're indigos and they don't know it, they're not awakened yet. But you can actually project frequency. This remote. Ask permission, it's always polite to ask to their Christos level self and say, it's all right if I, transmit this frequency, usually you'll just get a feeling of open space, like no problem. Yeah, you can do it. Simply transmit from your heart, where you would imagine a ball of a heart frequency coming out, a little spark shooting on a string of light from your heart to that area below the feet. And imagine it going into the 12th chakra. And that will open, at least temporarily, the 12th chakra. The 12th chakra, when it first starts to open, and you start to use these techniques on yourself, it will probably spasm, which means sometimes it'll go, and it'll stay nice and open, and you can feel your currents, and you feel good. Then it'll start to kind of go back to its old pattern where it tries to close. And you make it weird, your energy feels funny. If you start to get like weird feeling when you're just working with these techniques, even if it's not related, you're working the technique, you find when you're doing the technique, 3 days later, haven't even looked at the technique. You just feel weird, right? This is because energy is doing something in your system. The first thing you want to think about is your 12th chakra. If you're feeling tense or fatigued, it means you're holding too much energy in the body, and the body's not synthesizing it comfortably. All right. You may get other symptoms of that when they're beaming frequency through me, when I'm having higher strand activation temporarily for transmission purposes, which we do in groups and workshops because it helps to create a field where people can understand the words better. What happens with me is my knees will swell, and my feet, my ankles will swell. There's too much frequency holding in the body, so I have to remember to throw energy down and push open the 12th chakra, and then it releases. So there's one of the things you want to remember. It's real important to remember where chakra 12 is. Chakra 13 is usually just referred to as Earth's core, but it's where your 13th chakra plugs in to the planetary temple complex. That will activate naturally when you activate this. The ones up above the head, 14, I see 14, about 36 inches. In fact, we access it about 36 inches above the head, but it actually connects way up into deep space. It's like an interharmonic connection. But about 36 inches up above the head is where you can throw frequency from here to activate that chakra. What we'll do a lot of times when we're running frequency is run the whole loop between 14 and down here, 15. 15 is an interesting place. You go through Earth's core where 13 is. 14 is back up there. 15 is if you went all the way through Earth's core and way out Earth on the other side, wherever you are, if you drew a line through the Earth's core and way out in deep space on the other side, that's where it is. It like rotates with you. It's a galactic field that rotates with you. And it's where your biosystem is not only plugged into the planet, but plugged into the galactic and the intergalactic frequency cycles of the higher dimensional fields. You don't have to worry about 15 too much. It's just kind of there. It does its thing, and you work with the others. But we work with 13, 12, 14 a lot. At certain points, we work with 10 a lot, which is about 6 inches above the head. And 11 kind of gets caught in between working with 10 and 14. So the ones we mainly use when we're directing energy, if we're working with releasing these seals, you need to know where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, especially the first 7. All right, the basics. And most people know those already because chakra charts have been out, carrying those for years in the energy system. So they're worth remembering. And also, it's worth remembering that there are the color connections to them. Where's the chakra chart? There. There. Okay. Actually, it runs the same as the crystal seals. This is on the star crystal seals, telling you the color of them. S1 is red star crystal seal. S2, orange, etc. These again are the frequencies we talked about yesterday. That what we perceive as color is a wavelength. The wavelength is the length or the height of the scalar standing waves that make up the template for that dimension. So when we see a certain color, we are actually tapping into a very specific frequency band. If you know the colors, you realize that the red star crystal seal is carrying D1 frequency because that's the length of the wave span. Even science tells us that we have certain wavelengths that create certain colors. Some are longer, some are shorter, and that gives us a difference in what we perceive as color. So you use the color, the direct frequency, and how to understand it. The chakras work the same way. Chakra 1 carries D1 frequency. It would be red. It'll have other small frequencies in it, but the one you'll see most will be the dominant red color. Working all the way up, you will see that. What happens when you have red, orange, blue, indigo, violet? There's the color charts are in there. I forget what page they're on, but they're in there. 87?
87 is one.
Okay. Okay, no, 87 is the actually tone ones. 76 is the color of the chakra chart. This just helps so you know what frequencies each are carrying. It also helps that this is the color scale. So if you're going to direct frequency, these are the frequencies that you're using. If you want to direct D1 energy, you use red. What's interesting is when the chakras start to undergo transmutation, when you start to activate these three at a higher level with the Maharata current, they'll start to take on the next phase where the red and the green will come together. Notice the complementary colors are how they what do they call them? They're opposites on the color wheel. Yes, complementary is right on there. I haven't used that term because we have red, orange, and yellow, right? Number 1, 2, and 3. The next density level up, you have 4, 5, and 6. 4 is green. 5 is blue. 6 is indigo. They're the opposites on the color wheel. They're the opposite frequencies. And what happens is when you start to fully activate these and depolarize them, they start to carry the ones from above. What you're dealing with are tones. You have a base tone, an overtone, and a resonant tone chakra. They each go in sets of 3s. The resonant tone is the combined signatures to form a new signature of the ones below. The most powerful one is actually the overtone frequency, which corresponds to the antiparticle. Okay? There's a couple of things here that aren't in the book. I'm explaining the tonal system to you because this is the easiest way to see the relationships between the sets of 3 chakras. Based on overtone resonant tone, based on overtone resonant tone, that kind of goes all the way up as far as the numbers. If you have 1 through 12, even if they're not stacked that way on the body, based on overtone resonant tone is the pattern. And this has to do with when you're going to activate currents in the body. If you want to fully activate the 4 current in the body, which would be green, you need to use the Maharata pale silver. But you also have to go to the next octave up. 4, 5, 6, based on overtone resonant tone. What's the next base tone? 7. That's violet. That's where we get our Vedic phase 1 current. So there's this tonal resonance, or vibrational resonance, that takes place between the chakras that helps to understand that each of them are a tone, either a base tone, an overtone, or a resonant tone. A base tone corresponds to the particle universe, overtone to the antiparticle universe, which is considered base electrical. It's a stronger field than the particle magnetic universe. And then you have the resonant tone, which combines elements of both of them. Sometimes the resonant tone is used as the overriding frequency, but usually it's the overtone. When you're doing toning work, if you strike a tone, make it sound, you can also find it has its own implied overtone. I won't do that right now. I'm going to go along. Okay, let's see if I can find my notes. We can try to do that. Let's try this. I never demonstrated this, but let me see if I can do that. You take any note, like there will be an implied overtone that you'll be able to hear. And it's interesting because depending on where your own DNA is oriented, I'm doing this now, you will hear a different set of the overtone. Now when I do I get the harmonic overtone, which goes These are sounds that work with your DNA. So if you can play with this when you have time to do it. It's not something you need to do right now to learn to work with these exercises. But it helps you start to understand how to move your energy in your body. So at any tone, try to find its overtone. Realize that overtone, particularly when combined with the other, if you were able to do 2 of them at once, you have 2 people, one doing each, it creates a standing wave. It's the resonant tone. This is how you anchor things in your template or in the planetary template. When we do planetary shields work or round tables, we use tone. In fact, we use some really strange tone. Yeah, it was really fun. The first time we had them out, there's a diagram of them up there. Was there a lot of you that were at that first workshop when we introduced them in New York City? That was bizarre. I put the thing in my eye, and I'm looking at them saying, how do you say this? You know, they're like this long. Their names, they were 12 tribes' names that held the tonal equivalent in the DNA template that went with the planetary grids. So toning is directly connected with the chakras, the crystal seals. It's one of the tools we have to direct frequency. But the one we learn to use first in Kathara healing is the ability to visualize. Now this is interesting. I've had people come up to me and say, well, I don't know how to visualize. I try, but I don't see anything. You know? intended there. If you close your eyes and you're trying to imagine a six-pointed star of pale silver, and all you're seeing is black, that's okay. Hold the intention. There is a six-pointed star later there. You might not see it yet, because you might not have the DNA strands turned on enough to get the visual translation. But you are still creating the intention, which is a waveform, a thought form. That's enough to use to activate things. You don't have to worry about things you can't see in 3D color. Sometimes, in fact, when you're on a higher frequency, you'll go completely out of the light spectrum, where it's actually a higher consciousness to see nothing than it is to see light, because sound is the primal sound fields are actually the closest expression to the source, and out of that comes the light. So when you go from having inner vision to having no inner vision, but you just know exactly what's there, that's called see feeling. That comes at the beginning, or when you're just starting to activate, when you haven't got to the light yet, where you see the lights. And it will also be the phase that if you're developing inner vision and you're trying to see D6. As you start to see D6, you'll see nothing, but you'll start to feel the colors there, the shapes there. You'll move through where you start to get translation of the images in your head, where you start to see your inner eyes. It'll be like your third eye actually opened when you're actually seeing through it. Then when you get into the higher spectrum of the seeing D6, you will pass out of the phase of seeing the images in light and back into blackness, but with full understanding of all the detail of what you're seeing. So you'll see without seeing. It's called direct cognition, and that's how it perceives. So there's this whole process involved with it. Now, what I'd like to do, I think, we know enough, we can go into talking real quick about what time is it? After 1. 20 minutes. Let's see if it's not 20 minutes to do this. So I'd like to get us into technique. Okay. But I also don't want to rush it. I want to do the mentoring for the book one first. I want to see something here. I don't want to take it around this. Alright, this one is not, this doesn't take too long, this one. Okay, I think what we're going to do is, before we go to our lunch break, I would like to do technique 1. The written part of it starts on page 117. Let's see if there's a diagram. There's a diagram of the main movements on page 120. So, please put 120 up there. I'll talk a little bit about it first, so we have an idea what we're doing. This technique is called awakening the mentor in the 6th and 7th senses. Awakening the mentor is literally making a bridge between your 3-dimensional consciousness and your 5th-dimensional consciousness. You're creating a portion of that blended level of consciousness and sticking it in your auric field, where it's like having a mini-me. You know that movie, the Austin Powers movie, that's the mini-me, where it gets talks to your comments and like a little phone thing. Well, it's taking a part of your consciousness and putting it here. You can send it out on missions. You can send it out to find information for you. You can send it as a second pair of eyes when you're doing healing work. All right? It helps to activate. It helps to activate the bridge, all right? Frequency that would make a bridge between your 3-dimensional consciousness, your 4th-dimensional, your 5th-dimensional consciousness, and that begins the process of triggering you're actually your 6th and 7th screen. So it's a process. It's easy. And it's fun. Because I tell people after you do this, go play with your mentor. And you really can. You can get in lots of trouble with your mentor. You'll find that using your mentor to actually project is much easier than trying to drag your whole body with you. And you get to realize where you can take it through windows and put it out in the garden. You can actually find out what temperature it is out there. You can send it 1 million miles away and get actually visual representation. So the technique you're going to learn here is just applied to healing. But that's just an easy application. Because use your imagination when you do your mentor. Because you're creating for yourself a friend. Okay? A friend that's you. Who's part of your own consciousness, taking part of your soul awareness. And saying, all right, would you mind coming down here and hanging out with me for a while so I have access to stuff that I can't fully process through my DNA yet? Help the DNA to make the bridge so you can remember and see some of the soul side. In running the mentor technique, try to, it's not too hard to do. And once you get it, this is one of those that fortunately, thankfully, if you do this once or twice, you don't have to do it anymore. Some of the other techniques you continually have to reset. I mean, if you don't do it again for like a year, it'll dissipate, where you'll need to bring the bridge back and create a mentor again. But if you create this and play with it, even on a daily basis, when you go to sleep at night and you have to send your mentor out to find information for you, this is fun, by the way. If you send it out, say, you're going to sleep, I'm tired, I don't want to think about being awake in the dream state. Oh, would you mind? I have like 4 questions. Don't overload it with questions. But give me 3 questions to find answers to anything. And you'll be very surprised what comes back to you in the morning. We'll come and you'll just feel this presence there that has data for you. And it's you. It's a part of you sent out. But this is one that if you just use the mentor once in a while, you can actually just let it kind of run on idle, where it will hang in your field. It's part of your energy field. You create it over here, and then you kind of put the storage back in your head when you don't need it. If you use it on a regular basis, you won't have to run all of these steps every time you want to use it at all. It'll simply be your buddy. It's like giving yourself a guardian angel. All right. So the mentor technique, I don't think I need to talk any more about it. It doesn't take long to run this one. Yeah, there's nothing else. If you want to read about the mentor, there's more information on between page 149 and oh, these are fun. I have my short book that only has the Mylar pages. There's a lot more on the mentor in these books. Let's see. I have the Mylar sheets, but I don't have the text, body text. I'm looking at my pages. They go from 113 to 149. Okay. It's right after 114. Yeah, 114. If you want to read on the mentor, like, you can do that. But it's really easy and it doesn't require a lot of explanation to be with. So what I would ask is, it doesn't take very long. You have time to do it before we go to lunch. And that's nice, because then you can go with your lunch. You can take your mentor lunch. And when you do, you can ask your mentor to go into food and bring back information on it. Play with it. So here's an opportunity to start playing with this part of your consciousness and seeing what you can do with that for you. The universe is filled with knowledge, filled with information. We would be like, oh, it was like Einstein. If we realized we could use that information. This is the beginning of realizing you can do that and having fun with it. Okay, I'm going to ask if you would read this one for me, Phil. Phil's very good at reading them. It saves my voice, and the reason I really like to, if I have to do something step by step by step, instead of just off the top of my head where I know it from my memory, my eyesight is tremendous. And I didn't bring my glasses. It happened when I was back in the United States. This has to do with the expansion of the consciousness I've been going through, where I find my eyes looking from here. I find literally my focus as if my eyes were over here. And it's very hard to get focused back here. When I'm in transmission mode, even I'm talking to you, to bring my eyes back here to read is very, very difficult, because I'm either out here or in here. That'll be better, I guess, as I get better at it. But Phil will read this. And you okay up here? Do you want to say?
Sure, no, I'm fine.
And he has such a wonderful, soothing voice. He's a natural for this.
You may not want to send your mentor back into the room that they prepare the food, but that's up to you. You may not want to do that. The great thing about these techniques, after we have the long versions in the manual, then there are condensed symbol shorthands. When you've done this just a few times, you have to memorize it. It's just a matter of being familiar with it. You can go through the steps, the primary steps that we have in the condensed versions. Every time I see a client, I actually run through all these exercises. It takes about 5, 6, 7 minutes. And I run through all the exercises again just to manually restart them. Once it's just a matter of being familiar with it, it's a matter of familiarity. We have the long versions, we also have the shorthand and condensed versions. Just being familiar and memorizing the primary steps can save you a lot of time, and it's really good to manually reset this. Okay.
I say we're not being
Yes.
What we'll do is when we get out of this, I would think it's probably going to be very close to 1:30 at that point. You think we'll really go? All right. So I'm just going to say, maybe just like go, go right to one. I'll check the clock.
Okay. Just begin by placing the fingertips of both hands, as you can comb your fingers. It's going to be just a very gentle stimulation at the navel area, the area of the fifth Kathara center at the navel. So you can comb your fingers if you like, the fingers of both hands, and place them at your navel. Okay? So place the fingertips of both hands and the focus of your attention at your navels. One navel per person. begin by taking a few slow, full breaths, and then visualize the image of a blue flame, like a gas stove flame, deep inside the body, behind the navel. And gently massage the navel region while envisioning this blue flame, deep inside the body, behind the navel. You can relax your hands now. And visualize a sphere of white light within the blue flame behind the navel. And place your attention within the white sphere and imagine that you can feel its reality all around you as if you're sitting within the white light sphere within the blue flame behind the navel. And breathe gently and visualize the white light sphere moving upward through the center of your body with your next inhale until it reaches the center of the brain at the pineal gland. And stop the movement of the white light sphere at the pineal gland. Then visualize the white light sphere moving to the right in a straight horizontal line outside of the body until it's positioned in your auric field just above your right shoulder. This white light sphere positioned over the right shoulder now represents a portion of your awareness that was raised to the fifth dimensional frequencies via its passage through the blue flame and the fifth Kathara center at the navel. We'll name this part of our higher identities Mentor. And now imagine that you can feel the reality of the white light sphere that holds your mentor resting gently above your right shoulder as a fuzzy ball of energy. Mentor serves as the meeting point between your waking conscious mind and the fifth dimensional portion of your soul matrix identity, called the archetype. And with practice, you can lean the energy of your waking awareness from its position within your head over to the right and into the mentor sphere to receive direct cognition, audio, and visual guidance from your fifth dimensional identity station. In healing facilitation, Mentor will communicate with the fifth dimensional archetype aspect of your client's soul matrix, asking how you may best serve the client's highest evolution. Guidance Mentor receives will be translated to you from Mentor in the form of intuitive urge, spontaneous cognition, or audio-visual directions. Mentor will also serve as a translator of information from your higher dimensional stations of identity to your conscious mind. Mentor can also be taken into the dream state with you to assist in dream recall and initiating out-of-body travel. Now, with the focus of your attention on the mentor sphere over your right shoulder, as this fuzzy ball of energy, take a few slow, deep breaths and visualize mentor expanding into a sphere the size of a basketball. Use your next inhale breath to draw the mentor sphere toward your head and visualize mentor moving from over your right shoulder to a position surrounding your entire head. Exhale and stop the movement of the mentor sphere and imagine that you can feel its fuzzy energy all around the outside of your head, as if your head is now within the basketball-sized mentor sphere. This basketball-sized mentor sphere now surrounds and permeates the entire head. With your next inhale breath, contract the mentor into a small sphere of white light positioned inside the center of the brain at the pineal gland. Exhale and breathe slowly for a moment. Take an inhale breath, and with the exhale breath, push the small mentor sphere out from the pineal gland, straight forward and into the sixth chakra at the forehead, Visualize mentor moving into the sixth chakra from inside the head, and then continuing to move through the sixth chakra spiral, straight outward and away from the body. Imagine mentor sphere traveling outward through a long blue-violet tunnel of the sixth chakra spiral until you visually lose track of the mentor sphere far out in front of you. So with the force of the exhale breath, push that mentor sphere outward and away from the body. Imagine it's riding the blue-violet tunnel of the sixth chakra spiral away from the body and out into the distance until it fades from view. And take a few slow breaths. On your next inhale breath, visualize mentor sphere reappearing in the distance of your sixth chakra spiral. And with the inhale breath, imagine it riding in on the inhale breath, back into the pineal gland. Imagine with the inhale breath, you're drawing it back through the blue-violet tunnel of the sixth chakra spiral, back into the pineal gland. And breathe slowly for a moment. Take an inhale breath. And with the exhale breath, visualize the mentor sphere moving down from the pineal gland at the center of the brain and stopping at the center of the fifth chakra in the throat. And breathe slowly for a moment. Take an inhale breath. And with the exhale breath, push the mentor sphere straight outward from the throat. Imagine it moving forward from inside the throat into the blue spiral of the fifth chakra. And visualize mentor riding the current of the exhale breath out into the distance within the blue tunnel of the fifth chakra spiral until it fades from view. The force of the exhale breath is to push the mentor sphere outward from the throat, imagining it riding, this time, the blue tunnel of the fifth chakra spiral out into the distance until it fades from view. And take a few slow breaths. And on your next inhale breath, imagine the mentor sphere reappearing in the distance, and with the inhale breath, let it ride in on the inhale breath, returning through the blue tunnel of the fifth chakra spiral to rest deep within the throat. Let it ride that inhale breath back through the blue tunnel of the fifth chakra spiral back into the throat. Take an inhale breath and move the mentor back up to the pineal gland. And on the exhale, push the mentor sphere back out to its home position in the auric field over the right shoulder. This process of awakening the mentor in sixth and seventh senses has opened up the first to fifth sub-frequency bands within each dimensional layer of the sixth and fifth chakras, beginning the process of opening the sixth, the Odoria, and the seventh, Tristet senses, stimulating inner vision and audio, a higher dimensional frequency perception. So when you feel ready, to return to the present moment focus of your conscious attention and awareness back to the room. Gently open your eyes.
Very much, Beth. What did you think of that? Yeah. Did you feel anything? Especially the new people. It's the people that have worked with it before. After a while, you start to really buddy each other. And when you're moving it through the chakras, you start to feel expansions in the chakras. That's why it's worth playing with it. I was wondering, this is for a lot of people that just come into this course. This gives you an idea of what direct specific frequency in specific places in your body to create results. And I'm just wondering, did you feel something when you did that? Did you like it or dislike it, or anybody want to comment on it? You know, when you were doing, especially the new people, you know, that haven't experienced it before. What I'm hoping is when a person first starts, first of all, there's a level of sensitization and energy that the more you do something, the more sensitized you get to it. Some people don't feel anything at all. Oh, no. I had one together, I had one lady saying, well, I don't know why we need to spend 20 minutes just doing mental visualization. The lady, we're not visualizing pretty beaches, girls in bikinis and such. You know, we were doing a major Kundalini activation that had a lot of steps, but there was a lot of crystal seals in the body that had to be activated. But she had done in the first workshop, she didn't know anything about Kathara healing. She didn't know where a chakra was really. I mean, we at least gave a rundown, like, you know, 7 chakra on top of your head, you know, so at least she knew where to run the energy. But because she didn't have any of the understanding of what we were doing, she just kind of wrote it off, well, you're teaching us thing. And I was like, well, you wrote it that way. You're missing something. When you first start with the environmental things, and this is any kind of frequency that you're doing, just like the thing we did with the palms before we went for the break, where you have your palms with you all the time, but very rarely do you even realize that you have currents coming out of your hands. You can start to feel that when you put your attention on it, slow it down enough, check it out. Yeah, that's when you start to realize, oh, there's a fuzziness that I can get rid of. The heat usually first, and like a fuzzy feeling and tingling. You start to become aware of the fact that you have energy in your palms. Same thing with any of these techniques. You run it the first time, and the first time, most of the time, what your brain's trying to do is keep up with the steps. What was that? Oh, where am I? Wait, I lost the last 4 words. Where are we now? It takes a while to get used to these. When you're running them at your own pace, it's a bit easier. What I suggest with any of the techniques, and if we had more time, we have them available. We have some audio programs that we don't have. Oh, actually, we did. Yes, we do. We just have this done. Michael has made tapes of, like, when you get the Kathara program through the mail, it now has the videos that I think is the New York City workshop, and it has the audio tapes that go with all the exercises, which means you can put them on and listen to them through the steps. You don't have to look at your book and go back to that, or you can make your own tapes, to use whatever. But it's easier to do it that way. The more you run, this is why I'd rather you do it on tape and worry about memorizing steps. If you do it on tape, the more you run these frequencies, just like when you start to put your attention on feeling the fact that you have energy in your hands, you'll become more sensitive yourself toward what is happening. You will start to feel the weight of that energy field you just created over your shoulder. And not only its weight, you feel its consciousness. You realize, we're a part of each other. Yeah. It's like, it's very interesting. There's a whole experiential thing that goes with these exercises that you won't get the first time, especially, because you're just trying to keep up with, what did you say? What did you say? If you work with them, you will find changes. You will find, oh, I'm aware of that. When you work with brain, say, mentor in, breathe in, and run it down to any of the chakras. I mean, what we did there was specifically to take the 5 chakras, which you picked up through the flame down here, running it through the blue flame, which is the D5 frequency. You run a part of your consciousness through the D5 frequency, bring it up, and then do something. You put it out here first of all, just to let us have them in there. But then we moved it back in here. Remember, it's D5 frequency, a part of our consciousness that carries the D5 frequency. Then we moved it to specific chakras. We moved it into the chakra from the center, down the center of the current, and then out as far as you can see. And once you lose track of where the out is, like you see it, the little ball moving out of the chakra, and all of a sudden you just really don't see it or sense it anymore. You actually just told yourself something about where your limitations are as far as where your DNA is, because you will be able to go cross country with it once you're fully activated, where you just keep trying to be able to project and really feel that projection. What you're doing is taking D5 frequency. When you're doing the throat chakra, that's the 5th chakra. We're taking D5 frequency and moving it through the seals that are on the chakra, on those chakras that look like cones sticking out. Each level of the auric field creates, it looks like a thin membrane that segments that chakra. We talked about the auric field levels before, how they extend out from the body. We talked about the huba lines. that every three-dimensional level of the body has literally a tissue capsule around it. It's like an energy form, a spherical, elliptical sphere of energy that forms from the shields that we talked about yesterday. These poopa bodies create a membrane. Isn't it like a etheric matter membrane? It's not always etheric, sometimes semi-etheric, but it is a membrane, a frequency resistance area in the fields that each chakra enters through. So at each level, three-dimensional level, you will have a barrier that makes it really like a little cap. It's like a little cap on a camera. You're not going to take pictures when the lens cap is on, right? So you have on each chakra these series of seals extending out from the horizontal ones. You'll have it out where D1, 2, 3. You'll have little ones where D1 stops and D2 starts, and between D2 and D3. Then the big one is between D3 and D4 when you move from one density level to the next. There are thicker tissue capsule seals there. When we take that fifth dimensional spark of frequency and our consciousness within it, move it through, you're penetrating the first 5 subharmonics or sub-frequency bands of that seal in that chakra. What it's doing is like making a hole in the lens capsules and light comes. Alright, so there's a purpose to doing this. It's when, with the fifth chakra, it allows you to run certain types of frequency. When you do it with the sixth chakra, what this will do is you're releasing seals, part of those seals, that are on your third eye. If you want to do healing facilitation, or you can see what you're up to with your own biology, it helps to have more of the inner vision turned on. When you run through the six chakras to control the inner vision, you are opening more, temporarily stimulating the opening of the inner vision. You can do that a lot. You can play with it, with your board. Just, bring your mentor, make your mentor come, bring them in, and send them back and forth, and see how far you're going to go in your third eye chakra. Because what it progressively do is increase your ability to have higher sensory visual perception. And when you do it with the throat chakra, this is increasing here because it's connected. The ears are actually connected to the fifth chakra. They're a region that's covered by partially the sixth chakra, partially the fifth. Every area of the body is actually governed by its function. It's governed by the chakra that's closest to its proximity and the template that chakra is connected to. So if you want to increase hearing, out here, you want to help repair hearing here, use fifth chakra, use the fifth desire center. If you want to hear better or see better with the inner visions, take higher frequency energy and start breaking through the higher frequency seals. So it's literally like peeling the little caps off after this, like a lens on a camera with several caps on it. You start to take the caps off. So that was the reason why we do this. We're going to go into healing, where you need to have some ability to visualize or to get an idea, or at least hold an imprint of energy that tells you I'm going to move this down here to bring this up, which is what you're going to do with the current, when you activate the Mahatma current. You need to increase just a bit the amount of frequency you can pull in. What this just did is in your fifth strand template, and in your sixth strand template, and in strand 4, 3, 2, and 1, it activated the fifth and sixth subharmonics. It made a little frequency link between your D6 level and your D1, D3 levels. So that will allow enough of an information system to come through where it will be easy to do the next techniques that involve activating Makarana. So there's a method to the madness when you get into these things. And usually the book will explain some of what the purpose is for doing this. We don't say, just do this and play with this ball of energy and do that, and just leave it at that. We try to explain to you that it may seem like silly, symbol play or playing balls of energy. These are your tools for directing energy. It can be fun, but realize you're doing physics when you do this stuff. So it's kind of like doing heavy stuff, but in a very lighthearted and fun way. Okay, I believe it's time to, is it?
I just wanted to say something.
Yes.
As we were doing the exercise, at some point I found myself making a shift to different space, and I was getting flashes of images. I really wasn't sure what these images were, but the most distinct ones in my mind were that I was seeing winds of energy from different mountains. And I really didn't know what to do.
That's a demonstration of what it means to take some of the lenses off your sixth chakra, your third eye chakra. When you first start to take the images, who knows what you're seeing? It'll take you a while to figure out what you're seeing. Because what you're doing is starting to see what exists at a different frequency band. You may start part of your own incarnational memory popping up, or that's happens to be in that frequency range, you may be seeing part of the natural geometrical forms that are floating through the air that we don't see from this level. It takes a while to differentiate what you see when you start to see, but that's the beginning, where you start to get clips and like little things pop up. You may even get this after the fact during lunch and things, or even like in the next 3 days, you may just have spontaneously symbols or light appear. Some people get a big purple dot, okay? Some people get blue. Where in the strangest times you may just start having as if somebody turned on the intervision and it just does weird stuff and then stops. What was that? You're not going crazy, you're not losing your mind. What's happening is your third eye is starting to turn on because you're starting to activate your sixth chakra. It'll take a while. Make sense to you? Don't worry about it. Ride with it. It may tell you something interesting, or it may just give you pictures to look at for a while. But it's natural and okay. So I'm going to stop talking so everybody can go to lunch. So we can end anything after 2 o'clock. And how much? Yeah, an hour. I haven't had any more with black. There seems to be a block on that, like a cosmic one. So you're not allowed to do that. You know, if you're meant to have a windfall come your way, it takes more than your mentor to make it happen. But you might want to try it, because I did have once, and I was never in a gang, but I tried once, because a friend of mine was, and we'd gone to the racetrack, and I really wanted, all I wanted was like $200 so I could buy this one guitar, so I could play acoustic guitar. Didn't have the money to do it. And I came out with the horse races, and the person had money and stuff, and I felt bad for horses. But I kind of sent him around, and I really like to get the guitar. You really mind telling me what it was? Tell me what it was. And I wasn't attached to it. I figured you probably wouldn't listen to the mentor, you know. It gave me a very interesting thing. So look at the program. I got like, look at the program. So I looked at the program for the race that was coming up. And I closed my eyes, and I saw the stripes that had run across the page this way, listing the horse and the rider and that kind of stuff. 3 of them lit up. We had red, orange, and yellow. The red is the strongest one. That would be like the hottest. Okay, so it came up with this scale to use to show me which ones were most likely in the probability. And the first time I played it, I won $214. I didn't play it all that I knew not to push it. But you can do funny little things with this. You can ask for healing advice. This may be very useful if you're going through activation problems, because like the activation stuff, you'll find that it's not just a concept your mind plays with. You'll find that when it starts to happen, you might feel like your body's falling apart. Periodically, it comes back and you feel better than it did before. But there are times when it can be very useful. You may get headaches. You may get body aches from the inactivation, where it feels like I remember the only thing I could compare it to was it felt like my bones were in labor. And women can probably relate to that, but it's probably a little vague for men who haven't in this body experienced labor. Right? It's like a really horrid pain, right? That comes from the inside, that just pushes itself outside, and you can't stop it, it has a life of its own. Well, in some of the activations, it went, I've experienced those for weeks on end, because I was on a real fast track of getting, the frequencies in. And you can use the mentor to go find data. What do I do? To help it feel better. If you recognize it, that, this isn't a bad thing. My body's clearing stuff out. It's in the way of the activation. So you realize, just like with any disease that you might pick out from your body's trying to reharmonize itself. Disease is a process where the body's trying to heal itself. And that's the product of it. So even with activation stuff, it's not a disease, but they're going to feel that one. When it's cycling, you can ask the mentor to go and find information on what specifically for my body type, for my body right now as it is, what can I do right now to ease this? I know the activations are good, I'm not worried about it, but it tells me things are good, what can I do? You can get practical personal information. This is what's nice about it. You don't have to go pick up a book someplace and find out, what does anybody do for this? You find out what you need. Because your mentor is part of you, connected to your higher parts, that knows what you specifically are, what you need. And it's part of you. You have a right to say, go do this, would you please? It's like having an underling of yourself. You have to treat it nice, and we want something to treat you not nice, and you're treating yourself this way. So simply ask it to go find the thing that you need. If you need to move, if you can't stay in the house that you're living in, then you need to find a place. Ask him to help. Ask him to go scan the astral grids and see where it's the right frequency for you. You can use it for just about anything. So it's a simple little technique. It has huge potentials. You can play with this for 10 years and learn nothing else and have it all. Now, we will go into more But there's no comment that's worth looking at. 152. Page 152. I don't have to go through the top three, but what is a very good way to conceptualize what we're doing. We're activating the heart shield to bring in the D12 frequencies into the body. The last one says, activation of the heart shield serves as the reset button for the embodied Kathara grid and for 12 dimensions of body, mind, spirit, anatomy. That's a very good way to conceptualize what you're doing when you start to run the heart current that requires your activation of the heart shield. It is a reset button, or reboot. You know, when your computer crashes and freezes and your mouse won't work and it does nothing, you just have to shut the power off and start over and give the currents, get the currents back again, push it in, it reboots itself. Well, you're doing the same thing to your DNA template when you trigger activation of the heart shield. What's nice about it is you can't get too much electricity coming in. It will shut down when your body hits its holding capacity. It will shut down the current temporarily until that synthesizes. But it is the restart button. It's the restart button for the divine imprint, the blueprint for health. So that's a very good way to conceptualize it. I just want to draw your attention to that one comment in there. Now, on page 123, which is the next one. Where was that one? 123, the next one. Actually, my board is 123. Now, yeah. We got one somewhere. You know, I'm going crazy. She's not working off the one that's structured with normal page numbers. I'm working off the one that's structured on the top sequence page numbers, which is a different sequence. It is page 123 at the bottom. 56 on the top. That's it. There we go.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Before we go into that, I noticed that when we were doing the mental exercise around Pointfield was reading it, they used the blue color in the chakra. I know that's green.
He was making it correctly. That should read blue-green. Okay, because what you're doing, that's one of the, there's probably a few typos in there because nobody's had time to even prove some things. We were, processing stuff so fast to get it out to the public. In that area where it says, when you're using, it says in blue, green, it is more green than blue because you're combining D4 green frequency with D5 blue frequency. Just like when you're using the other one, you get the violet indigo color because you're combining the frequencies. So it would be blue-green that you use there. But if you use green, it has in it the blue subharmonics. So it's, even if you just use green, it works. And that's what Phil was trying to do. He was trying to, we're using D5, so it should be blue. It's really the combined blue-green frequency. Somebody else picked that up too, and I tried to explain that. Yeah, I forgot about that one. It's probably if you type on,
just in the lower form and the condensed
so
version.
Correction.
Please make a
Over here.
couple
Correction master technique.
Hey.
Yeah, but what page did you find in there?
This
Or,
one,
yeah.
118.
118? Okay, 118.
And also, I think it's on page 190, the condensed version. There's a couple of references to green that change to
Yeah.
blue.
Yeah, you can just make a note at the top of the mentor exercise where it starts to use blue. Okay. That's not the blue flame. No, the blue flame stays blue. It's when you're pulling it. If you put it on that page 120, the chart that shows where you're bringing it. The chakras, that would be an easy place to stick it to show, by the chakra. Where's that from? Page 120? Yeah. Good. This is probably the easiest place to put it so you catch it easy and you remember. We're going to put this graph back up for a second. Page 120. And if you put it right, I'll show you where. If you put it right here, just to remind yourself that blue-green for that one. Okay? That'll be the easiest way because you don't have to go through reading through text to find it. And if you want to put it in the text, it's a subtlety with this one that I didn't want to get back to, but they told me not to worry about it because you get the blue subharmonics in the green anyway, because what is green is blue put together. So they weren't too worried about it. It was like there's other news that we had to move on to. But you can make that change. It makes it a little more specific. Okay, now we'll go there. Pay attention. Back to 123. Now, on this chart, it simply shows you, gives you an idea of how the frequencies are structured in the dimensional bands. Every dimensional band has a set of its own 12 sub-frequency bands, plus those of the dimensions below it. So it just shows you the list from dimension 1 up to dimension 15, how many subfrequency bands are mixed. Frequency subharmonic is a subfrequency band. Okay? We have 180 subfrequency bands when we get all the way up to D15. There's 144 subfrequency bands when we're up to D12 level. So it's interesting because just to make a mental note of the 144 subfrequency bands number, because later when we get into some of us will get into this, it's not in the Kathara program, it's actually in the roundtable program. Actually, we put it in the Kathara level 2 years ago. Okay. You will learn something about the tribal shield as part of the DNA template, and you learn about fire letters, and you learn that there's 144 fire letters in each of each 12-strand pattern. All right, this means 144 subfrequency bands. So they're showing you a relationship between fire letters, that magical word that comes through things like the keys of Enoch and trainings like that. That most people are all fire letters, something to do with DNA. We explain to them what you are. The subfrequency, frequency subharmonics, or the subfrequency bands, do become what's the fire letters, or a core template, sequences of core template programming that make up the DNA strand templates. Now, if you look too on this diagram, it shows the Hoover bodies that we talked about and the shields that we talked about yesterday, where you have your not a Hoover body that goes with your density 1 cell, dimensions 1, 2, 3. It's your telluric shield. These are the frequencies of harmonics and known. Okay? Then you go to the next level, which is the soul body, the alpha Hoover body. As a durated shield, it's template that manifests that body. So, dimensions 4, 5, and 6, which of course will be